Welcome everyone to today's algorithm discussion. Today's problem took me about 11 minutes to solve, yet I learned a lot. Today's problem is called breaking the record. It's about a girl called Maria. For each game that she plays, she takes count of the minimum and the maximum score she had and keeps track of the number of times she broke her record. So let's say for this first game, she scored 12. So her minimum is by default 12 and her maximum is 12. For the second game, she scored 24, which means she broke her maximum score from 12 to 24, but her minimum stays the same. So we say she broke the record one time. For the next score, she had 10, which is less than the minimum score she had over here. So she has broken her minimum score record again to be 10, but her maximum score stays the same. Then for the next one, she had a score of 24, which is, yeah, she had a score of 24. In this sense, she did not alter any of the minimum or maximum scores. So yet again, she didn't break her record over here. Let's take a much in-depth explanation. So over here you have the game, the score, highest and lowest score. So for the first game by default, she had 10, so the highest score and the lowest score are all the same. The next game, she scored 5, which means her lowest score got replaced, but her highest score stays the same. For the next one, she scored 20. That means she beat her highest score. So her new highest score is now 20, but lowest score stays the same. For the next game, she scored 20, which is the same as her highest score, so nothing changes. For the next game, she scored 4, which is 4 is lower than her lowest score. So 4 replaces her lowest score. It goes on and on and on for that. And we count each time a score gets replaced. So over here, the score got replaced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Okay. Now let's proceed ahead to see how to write the algorithm. This is how I solved it. First, I use a for loop to iterate over all the values. I use this range function not to include the first element because by default we are assuming the first element is the minimum score and the first element is also the maximum score, and the records broken are none. Not so the default state, no record has been broken. The algorithm asks us to output the number of times. So the output of the algorithm is as such. So over here, we are supposed to output the number of times the maximum record was broken and the number of times the minimum record was broken. So in this case, the number of times the lowest score was broken is 1, 2, 3, 4. And the number of times the highest score record was broken is 1, 2. So that's our output specification. By default, no maximum record has been broken and no minimum record has been broken. So you have these three variables right over here. Now, this score contains the list of scores in each game. So I use a for loop to iterate over each score. Then I check if the score we have is greater than the maximum score, then we will assign the new score to the maximum. And we also check if the score we have is less than the minimum score, then we assign the new score to the minimum score. First, when I wrote this program, I did a mistake. I forgot to substitute the maximum and the minimum values. So I ran it about 2 times. I was getting the output was wrong. I was wondering what was wrong. It took me a while to figure it out. Now, after substituting the maximum score or the minimum score in each case, we 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 append. So for this one, the records broken. This is this arrow over here. If the maximum score was broken, we add 1 to the first item over here. But if the minimum score was broken, we add 1 to the item over here and later on return the array which contains the number of times the maximum record was broken and the number of times the minimum record was broken. So if I run this code, it should pass. Okay, and if I submit it, it should pass for all the test cases also. The 9 is taking a while. Okay, it's finally passed. Let's take a look at why the 9 kept so long. Let's look at the test case. Oh, okay. The test case is quite huge. So it means our algorithm, there might be something that is quite inefficient because it took quite a long time to process this 9. Now, after looking at other people's solution, I came up with a new solution that is quite better. After looking at other people's solution, the first thing I realized was that this for loop, I could have changed it to this instead of using length, finding the length, then using the range and getting the index of each score. I could have just done score in scores, which will give me each item in the array. Now, the reason why I did it this way was I was afraid that the first element will get included in this check. But later on, I realized that it doesn't matter if the first element gets included or not, because we only want a case when it is maximum and a case when it is minimum. So if the maximum score is the same as the first score, there's no equal to statement over here, so it doesn't spoil our code. Another thing I also realized was that over here, the minimum and the maximum had the same initialization value. So I could have written it in one line just like it. And I did that this time around. So when we run this code, it should also pass gracefully. Yeah, it passed successfully. Let's submit it and see how it runs for the 9th test case. So you see, this time around, for the ninth test case, it was very fast because we didn't have to do calculate the length and use the range also. We were not performing these operations any longer. We were just getting the item and then checking. So our code was faster than it was before. So that's it for today. Future me, if you watch this video, I hope you find it interesting and informative. Okay, see you guys later.